She pointed at me across her fancy living room and laughed. "Oh, that's just the maid," she told her friends. "Don't mind her. She's practically invisible." I stood there holding their champagne glasses, my face burning, but what they didn't know was about to change everything. Hi everyone, I'm Clara, and I'm 28 years old. If you've ever been treated like you're beneath someone just because of your job, hit that subscribe button right now and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read every single one. I've been working as a housekeeper for 3 years now, ever since I moved to the city. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid well enough to help me save for my real dream, opening my own catering business. I cleaned for wealthy families in the suburbs, and most of them were decent enough. They treated me professionally, paid on time, and respected my boundaries. But then I started working for the Hendersons. Marcus Henderson was a successful lawyer, and his wife Jessica, well, Jessica was something else entirely. She was one of those people who needed to make others feel small to make herself feel big. Every interaction with her was a reminder that she saw me as less than human. I wasn't rich or glamorous like the women at her parties, but I had something they didn't expect: dignity, intelligence, and a plan. I just never thought I'd have to use it the way I did. What happened that night at her party changed both our lives forever, and honestly, I'm not sure either of us saw it coming. The night that changed everything started like any other Friday. Jessica was hosting one of her monthly dinner parties, the kind where she invited other lawyer wives to drink expensive wine and gossip about people they considered beneath them. My job was simple: serve drinks, clear plates, and stay invisible. I'd worked these parties before. The routine was always the same. Jessica would barely acknowledge me except to bark orders. "Clara, the glasses need refilling," or "Clara, someone spilled on the carpet." Her friends treated me the same way, like furniture that occasionally moved. But this party was different. Maybe it was the extra bottle of wine they'd opened, or maybe Jessica was feeling particularly cruel that night. I was walking through the living room with a tray of champagne flutes when I overheard one of her friends, a woman named Patricia, asking about me. "Who's that?" Patricia asked, nodding in my direction. That's when Jessica said it. She didn't lower her voice or try to be discreet. She wanted me to hear every word. "Oh, that's just the maid," Jessica announced, loud enough for the entire room to hear. "Don't mind her. She's practically invisible. These people, they're like ghosts, you know? They clean up our messes and disappear." The room erupted in laughter, not gentle chuckles, but mean-spirited, cruel laughter. I felt my face burn with humiliation as every eye in the room turned to look at me. One woman actually pointed and whispered something to her companion that made them both giggle. "I swear," Jessica continued, clearly enjoying the attention, "sometimes I forget she's even here. She just blends into the background like wallpaper. Expensive wallpaper costs more than she makes in a month." More laughter. My hand shook as I tried to keep the champagne glasses steady on the tray. I wanted to run, to hide, to disappear the way they clearly wished I would. But something inside me, maybe pride, maybe stubbornness, kept my feet planted. "Marcus always says I'm too generous with the help," Jessica went on. "But honestly, what else would someone like that do with herself? This is probably the nicest house she'll ever see from the inside." The worst part wasn't just the words. It was the casual cruelty of it all. The way she spoke about me like I wasn't standing right there. The way her friends nodded along as if treating another human being like this was perfectly normal. I finished serving that round of drinks in complete silence, my face burning with shame and anger. But as I walked back to the kitchen, something shifted inside me. The humiliation was transforming into something else entirely, something that would make Jessica Henderson regret every word she'd just spoken. Over the next few weeks, Jessica's cruelty only escalated. It was like that night had given her permission to drop any pretense of basic human decency. The first incident happened 3 days later, when I arrived for my regular Tuesday cleaning. Jessica was on the phone with what sounded like another lawyer wife, and she didn't bother to end the conversation when I walked in. "Oh, she's here now," Jessica said into the phone, looking directly at me. "The maid I was telling you about. Clara, isn't it?" She didn't wait for me to respond. "Patricia, you should see how she looks at our things sometimes, like she's calculating how much she could steal." I froze in the doorway. That accusation could ruin me. No wealthy family would hire a housekeeper they suspected of theft. "Jessica, I would never." I started. I wasn't talking to you, she cut me off, her voice ice cold. Did I ask you to speak? The second humiliation came the following week during another one of her gatherings. This time it was a book club meeting. 6 women sitting in a circle discussing a novel about social inequality of all things. The irony was lost on them completely. I was dusting the mantelpiece when one of the women made a comment about how the book's portrayal of domestic workers was so outdated and unrealistic. Oh, I don't know about that, Jessica chimed in, glancing meaningfully at me. Some people really are exactly what they appear to be. No hidden depths, no secret dreams, just what you see is what you get. Jessica, don't be cruel, one of the other women said, but she was smiling as she said it. I'm not being cruel, I'm being realistic, Jessica replied. Look, I'm sure Clara is perfectly happy with her lot in life. Aren't you, Clara? All 6 women turned to stare at me. I felt like an animal in a zoo, on display for their entertainment. My throat felt thick, but I managed to nod and continue dusting. See? Jessica said triumphantly. Some people are just meant to serve. It's not a bad thing. The world needs people to clean our toilets and wash our dishes. Clara's filling her proper role in society. But the worst incident happened 2 weeks after that. I was cleaning Jessica's home office when I noticed she'd left her laptop open. I wasn't snooping, I was just reaching to dust around it when I accidentally saw an email thread on the screen. It was a conversation with her sister, and the subject line made my blood run cold, the help drama. I shouldn't have read it, but I couldn't stop myself. Jessica had written a long email describing me to her sister, calling me pathetically desperate, and the kind of person who probably dreams about living like us but never will. She'd made jokes about my clothes, my hair, even my voice. The worst part was a paragraph near the end. I almost feel bad for her sometimes, but then I remember that people like that need to know their place. If we don't maintain boundaries, who knows what ideas they might get. Marcus thinks I'm too hard on her, but he doesn't understand. Give them an inch and they'll take a mile. Her sister had responded with laughing emojis and a comment about how the help always thought they were too good for their station. I stood there staring at that screen, my hands trembling with rage and humiliation. This wasn't just casual meanness. This was calculated cruelty. She was actively working to keep me down, to make sure I knew exactly what she thought of me. That night, I went home to my small apartment and cried. Not just from the humiliation, but from the injustice of it all. I had a college degree in business. I spoke 3 languages. I was saving every penny to start my own company. But to Jessica Henderson, I was nothing more than the help, a person so far beneath her that my dreams and intelligence didn't even register as real. But as I sat there in my tiny kitchen, wiping away tears, I realized something important. Jessica had made a crucial mistake. She'd assumed that because I cleaned her house, I was powerless. She'd assumed that because I needed the job, I would take any amount of abuse. She was about to learn how wrong she was about both of those things. What Jessica didn't know, what she never bothered to find out, was that I'd been documenting everything. Not intentionally at first. It started as a way to protect myself. After that first accusation about stealing, I began keeping detailed records of every interaction, timestamps, witnesses present, exact quotes when possible. I even started recording our conversations on my phone, just in case she tried to make false accusations that could destroy my reputation. But as the weeks went on, and the abuse escalated, my record-keeping became something more strategic. Every cruel comment, every humiliating incident, every email I accidentally glimpsed, I wrote it all down with the precision that comes from a business degree and 3 years of dealing with wealthy clients who thought they could get away with anything. You see, what Jessica also didn't know was that her husband Marcus wasn't quite the loyal partner she thought he was. Oh, he wasn't cheating. Nothing that dramatic, but he'd been confiding in me for months about his wife's behavior. Not intentionally, really. He'd just started apologizing for her after particularly bad incidents. I'm sorry about Jessica, he'd say quietly when she was out of earshot. She wasn't always like this. The money, it changed her. Those conversations revealed something crucial. Marcus was embarrassed by his wife's treatment of me. More than embarrassed. He was documenting it too, in his own way. He'd started making comments about her behavior to other people, expressing concerns about her attitude toward staff. But the real secret, the one that would change everything, was something I discovered completely by accident. While cleaning Jessica's home office that day, I saw the cruel email. I'd also noticed something else on her desk, a contract for a catering company she'd hired for an upcoming charity gala. The same charity gala where she was scheduled to give a speech about social responsibility and treating all people with dignity. The irony was so thick I could taste it. But more importantly, I recognized the catering company's logo. They were one of the biggest in the city, and I'd been in touch with them about potential partnership opportunities for my own future business. What Jessica didn't know was that I had connections she could never imagine, and I was about to use every single one of them. My ally came from the most unexpected place, Jessica's own charity gala. 3 days after I'd seen that catering contract on her desk, I called Premier Catering Services, the company she'd hired for the event. I asked to speak to Maria Santos, the head event coordinator. Maria and I had met 6 months earlier at a networking event for aspiring entrepreneurs. She'd been encouraging about my business plans and had even offered to connect me with suppliers when I was ready to launch. Clara. Maria sounded genuinely happy to hear from me. How's the business plan coming along? Actually, that's why I'm calling, I said. I saw that you're catering the Henderson Foundation Gala next week. Oh, you know the Hendersons? Maria's tone shifted slightly. I work for them, I said simply. And Maria, there's something you need to know about Jessica Henderson before you put her foundation's name on your company's reputation. I told Maria everything, not just about the abuse I'd suffered, but about what Jessica had planned to say in her speech about treating all people with dignity. I played her some of the recordings I'd made, not the private ones, just Jessica making cruel comments about people like that when other people were around to hear. Maria was quiet for a long time after I finished. Finally, she said, Clara, I've been in this business for 15 years. I've worked with a lot of wealthy people who think their money gives them the right to treat others badly. But this is different. How so? Because she's not just being cruel privately. She's about to stand up in front of 300 people and talk about human dignity while she's been systematically dehumanizing you. That's not just mean, that's hypocritical on a level that could damage everyone involved. Maria paused, then continued. You know what? I think it's time Jessica Henderson learnt that actions have consequences. Are you free next Friday evening? Meanwhile, back at the Henderson house, Jessica's confidence was growing by the day. She'd started treating me even worse, as if she sensed that the gala, her moment to shine as a philanthropist, was approaching and she felt invincible. She began criticizing my work more harshly, finding fault with things she'd never complained about before. She started timing my tasks and commenting loudly on how some people needed to work harder to earn their pay. She even began having her friends over more frequently, as if she enjoyed having an audience for her cruelty. Marcus keeps saying I should get a regular cleaning service instead of individual help, she told her friend Patricia during one visit. But honestly, I think Clara needs this job more than I need perfect service. It's practically charity work on my part. She had no idea that each cruel comment was building towards something she couldn't imagine. She was so focused on her upcoming moment of public acclaim that she couldn't see the trap closing around her. The Tuesday before the gala, I gave Jessica my notice. I won't be able to work for you after this week, I told her quietly. I've found other opportunities. She barely looked up from her magazine. Fine, don't expect a reference. The Henderson Foundation Gala was held at the Grand Palladium Hotel downtown. 300 of the city's elite gathered to celebrate social responsibility and community service. Jessica had been preparing for weeks, practicing her speech about treating all people with dignity and respect. She looked stunning that night in a silver gown that cost more than I made in 3 months. As the evening's keynote speaker, she would be presented with the Community Leadership Award for her outstanding commitment to social justice. What Jessica didn't know was that I was there too, not as a server this time, but as Maria's guest, wearing a borrowed black dress and sitting at a table near the back. Maria had arranged everything perfectly. The original plan was for Jessica to give her speech after the main course, but Maria had convinced the event organizers to make a small change. They would screen a short video about real voices of service workers before Jessica took the stage. Jessica had approved the video concept without seeing it, assuming it would be some generic feel-good montage that would make her speech more impactful. She was wrong. The lights dimmed, and the video began playing on the large screens positioned around the ballroom. It opened with peaceful music and images of people working, cleaning offices, serving food, caring for homes. The narrator spoke about the dignity of all work and the importance of treating every person with respect. Then the tone shifted. Jessica's own voice filled the ballroom, crystal clear through the high-end sound system. "Oh, that's just the maid. Don't mind her. She's practically invisible." The audience stirred uncomfortably. Jessica froze at her table, her face draining of color. The recording continued. "These people, they're like ghosts, you know? They clean up our messes and disappear." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some people were looking around, trying to figure out where this audio had come from. Then came the worst part. Jessica's voice again, dripping with contempt. "Sometimes I forget she's even here. She just blends into the background like wallpaper. Expensive wallpaper costs more than she makes in a month." The ballroom erupted. 300 people who had come to celebrate social justice were listening to the evening's honored guest mock and dehumanize her employee. The contrast between her prepared speech about dignity and her actual treatment of me was stark and undeniable. But the video wasn't finished. Maria had compiled not just my recordings, but testimonials from other domestic workers about their experiences with disrespectful employers. The message was clear. Jessica Henderson was not an advocate for social justice. She was everything wrong with the system. When the video ended, the ballroom was silent. Jessica sat frozen in her chair, her face a mask of horror and rage. Her husband Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. The event coordinator, clearly flustered, approached the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen, there seems to have been a technical error with our video presentation. Mrs. Henderson will now—" "No." The voice came from the back of the room. I stood up, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. "There was no technical error," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "My name is Clara Martinez. I'm the woman you just heard being mocked in those recordings. I worked for Jessica Henderson for 4 months, and every word you heard is exactly how she treated me." The silence was deafening. 300 wealthy philanthropists stared at me, some with shock, some with shame, a few with what looked like admiration. I took a breath and continued. "Mrs. Henderson was scheduled to speak tonight about treating all people with dignity. I thought you should know how she actually treats people when she thinks no one important is listening." Jessica finally found her voice. This is a setup. This woman she's trying to— Marcus, do something." But Marcus Henderson, successful lawyer and usually devoted husband, just shook his head slowly. "Jessica," he said quietly, "just stop." I walked out of that ballroom with my head held high, while Jessica Henderson sat in ruins at her table, her Community Leadership Award sitting unclaimed on the podium. The story made the local news within hours. Charity Gala exposes philanthropists' hypocrisy. Social media exploded with discussion about how we treat the people who work in our homes and businesses. Jessica's foundation lost 3 major donors within a week. The Community Leadership Award was quietly rescinded. More importantly, 2 other domestic workers came forward with their own recordings of her behavior, and Marcus finally saw his wife for who she really had become. They separated 2 months later. As for me, Maria offered me a partnership in her catering company the next day. "Someone who can plan an operation like that," she said, "is exactly the kind of business partner I need." My own catering business launched 6 months later with Maria's backing and my savings. We specialize in events for organizations that actually practice what they preach about social responsibility. For once, their silence didn't hurt me. It freed me. I finally understood I never needed their approval to know my own worth. If you've ever been treated like you're invisible because of your job or social status, you're not alone. Drop your location in the comments below. I want to know where you're watching from and hear your stories too. Remember, your dignity isn't determined by your paycheck or your job title. It's determined by how you treat others and how you refuse to let others diminish you. Hit that subscribe button if this story resonated with you, and share it with someone who needs to hear that their worth isn't negotiable. Sometimes the people who think they're untouchable learn the hardest lessons of all.